People who have signed NDAs that have now expired, or for whatever reason are no longer valid. What couldn't you tell us but now can? House Hunters guest checking in. I never made the show because I didn't close on the house. 1. I had to have a house under contract before going on the show. 2. They would select the other houses we were interested in. 3. I was assigned another significant other who was more interesting than my actual significant other. Damn, how did your so feel about that? She hated attention, not my significant other anymore, so she was fine with it. The girl I was gonna do the show with was super charismatic and funny. It would have been a hell of a show. I was a model for a few big name / well-known makeup companies. I did several print ads for magazines and a few television commercials. The makeup artists use the product advertised, but minimally. Like that mascara they're touting? It's over really good fake eyelashes, and they also used another brand of mascara along with the one they're trying to sell you. Also, the clothes in the ads you see are pinned to high heaven on the model. They fit nothing like they look. It's not you. It's not your body. It's fake advertising. Most of us models look just like you wearing that crap without all the pins and tucks and double-sided tape. Ugh, thank you for this. Every time I've seen an ad for shitty mascara I've used before and thought, there's no way they're using that mascara in this fucking ad, have been vindicated. A friend of mine got a job at a prominent local distillery that makes an extremely popular flavored whiskey. They literally buy whiskey from a third-party distillery and dump tawny flavoring syrup into it. A friend of mine works for a company that does QC stuff in distilleries. Turns out almost every single fantasy you have of handcrafted spirits made with love in small batches is bogus. Rail tanker cars full of raw grain alcohol get distilled to raise the purity and blended with high fructose corn syrup and flavoring extracts. The stuff is blended in totes, 1 cubic meter plastic containers, with a hand drill and a paint stirrer. Viola. High-end gin, sold for $90/26 ounces. You paid for the marketing, not quality product. Edit. Yes, there are some exceptions, but this method of production of spirits is common for most lower-priced or generic variety spirits. It's also indistinguishable from doing it the hard way, in most cases, so plenty of high-end brands do it too. One of my friend's brothers was on the MTV show Room Raiders. Everything in the show is staged. All of the items that they would find were planted. At the end of the show, the prize was not a date with the girl that he picked, he just got her phone number. So who planted the semen they were always finding with their blacklight? Me. I was the dedicated semen planter, DSP in industry lingo. It is grueling work. Night, day, weekends. I got paid $11.25 an hour plus benefits. I'd get the call, sometimes at 2 AM the day of the shoot. They'd send me an address, a time, and a minimum liquid volume quote, MLVQ. Expenses such as Jergens, Powerade, and Japanese 7/11 porno mags were covered up to $50 a day. Sometimes we'd be stacking 2 to 3 shoots a day. I'd have to lift mattresses, unfold/refold towels, empty and refill sock drawers, and sometimes even carry a ladder several stories, just to get that signature ceiling shot in. Really, the casting offices look for attention to detail over anything else. One trick I developed personally was to use a small hair dryer, Dyson, if you can afford one, to bake in the loads. This was especially important for achieving that stiff fabric effect every director looks for in semen application. Shaft, raw, and 125, 200 milliliters lighter. I'd get home praying the phone didn't ring for at least 48 hours. If I was a no-show, I'd get the axe immediately. The industry has a lot of turnover. My NDA expired in April. I really wish this is real. It's probably more real than most of the shite on reality TV. Apple 100% replaced the iPhone for 4 users because of a shitty antenna. We were instructed to dodge, deflect, and deny this was the issue. Cell phone providers were shit. The phone was a fluke. It didn't matter. Don't admit fault. But if they were there for reception, vs water damage, buttons or battery life, you had to make sure you were swapping them with the newer batch iPhone for swaps, rather than the typical batch swaps. It was a recall without being a recall, but only if you had reception issues. Son of a b, I knew it. Edit. Someone please recommend some good smartphones. Sent from my iPhone. I signed an agreement at my last job that I'd never sue them over anything ever. In exchange I was allowed to get yearly raises. After I left that job I joined a class action suing them for making me sign that and holding raises hostage. Made quite a bit from that. So in addition to all those yearly raises, you got an additional bonus? Yup. It was pretty awesome. I got a letter in the mail that said our records indicate you worked at XXXX during these times. Did you sign the arbitration agreement? I signed the letter, mailed it back in the postage paid envelope, and made close to $10K a few months later. Posted this before, if it sounds familiar. Not me, but a guy I know was on Cash Cab. A lot of it was faked. He was told he would be on a travel food show and would get picked up by a fake taxi at a certain location at a certain time. There were camera crews all over outside the taxi, and there's no way on earth you might mistake it for a real cab. I always assumed that the contestants knew they were going to be on Cash Cab and their surprised reactions were all faked. If this is true, it's actually a pleasant surprise. I was recruited to be on a new reality competition show. I didn't know it was Cash Cab until I was already in the cab and the lights came on. How do you get recruited for these things? I was approached on the street for Cash Cab UK. Had to answer a few general knowledge questions, then got a phone call a few days later to meet at a certain point. The producers met us there with a small camera crew and told us to wait. Then a cab turned up, and when we got in we were like, OMG, this is Cash Cab, genuine reaction. Then they told us to get out and get in again and recreate the reaction. Ended up dropping us off at a random bar with a stack of paper with a £10 note on top. Managed to win £800 between the two of us. But we had to wait a few weeks to get the money into my account. Less tax. Actually got to ask random people on the street questions out the taxi window though. Could have been worse. A couple other of my mates were on the same show and lost. Ended up getting dropped off on a dual carriageway and had to find their own way home. I worked for a native casino. The golf courses lost a ton of money for us, as did the advertising for the courses. Food we generally broke even on because of all the carbs. If a crime was committed by a dealer, they would watch the dealer for 3 months to see if there were accomplices. They used facial recognition and would pair match you, so if the same person sat with the same dealer over and over, they would know. This way they could look for accomplices. Then when they busted you, they would sit you down and make you watch a video of you breaking the law. They did this because they wanted you to plead guilty as opposed to an expensive trial. Anyone in the golf industry could tell you the first part is absolutely true, even though the golf course increases the value of everything else nearby. Such a weird duality. I work at a company that does work for golf courses and other companies. The bill usually is $150 to $1,000 9 times out of 10. I have to hound the golf courses to pay 19 times out of 20. All the other clients pay at least within 60 days. I signed an NDA to waitress at a local family-owned restaurant. The owner was nuts, definitely had a severe personality disorder, and was worried about his recipes getting leaked. The restaurant is dead now, and his secret recipes consisted almost solely of frozen packaged food. Edit. Guys, stop trying to guess what restaurant it is. You never will. There are millions of family-owned places with crazy bosses that go under. You don't know the place, and I'm not gonna tell you. Also, Mr. Krabs pays his employees enough to own houses and pets. I wish I worked for him. Amy's Baking Company who? His secret recipes consisted almost solely of frozen packaged food. That's why he wanted to keep it secret. I was an intern at Wells Fargo, and we were grouped with other interns across the US and given a project to work on aside from our normal intern responsibilities. My group was tasked to look at their current incentive program and the one they were moving to, and then come up with various ways they could be improved. 2 weeks before our presentation, someone way above each of our managers had us shred all our work and sign NDAs. A couple years later the story broke about their incentive programs, where employees were opening up fraudulent accounts for customers in order to gain more incentive rewards. Yeah, this is actually really interesting. I'm just now listening to the Wells Fargo episode of The Dollop and it's been pretty surprising how blatant this shit was. Signed an NDA when I worked as a fit model for Katy Perry's shoe line. Basically a fit model is used for their good proportions to test out the fit of garments. I'm a solid size 7.5, so hooray for being average. I was hired on 2 occasions and got to hang out and give her my opinion on the fit, feeling, and comfort of different shoes. Didn't think she'd actually be there, but both times she was present and totally running the show. Super nice woman in person and remembered me when we met again. Also she apologized for making me wait so long, which I thought was nice. It was a late night meeting as she'd just wrapped shooting a music video. Her dog is really cute too, and I got to save it when it got stuck behind a wall panel. I know someone who edited one of Katy Perry's music videos, and they said she was really put together, easy to work with, and reasonable, whereas the record label execs were a pain in the ass. I have heard this. Her PR people were all very nice too, but I'm sure, if you're working behind the scenes it's easier to forget that your actions still matter. Like and sub please.